Hey, I'm Rachel from the Raleigh Wine Shop, a small independent shop in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I'm here with Tristan, who heads up our wine education program, and Scott Frank, winemaker of Bow and Arrow, based out of Portland, Oregon. It's an urban winery. So thanks for being here, guys. We're doing great. So Scott, what first drew you to the wine industry?
I wasn't drawn to the wine industry.
Oh, heard that. Okay. So how did it progress?
Is the short answer. The long answer is I needed a job. I had moved to Portland from New York City shortly after 9/11,
Right.
looking to kind of have a reset or take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up staying longer than I anticipated and giving up my apartment in New York. I met someone. I was living with her, and I was unemployed. Unemployed live-in boyfriend's not the strongest look, as it turns out.
Classic story.
Yes.
And I just answered a classified ad for an assistant wine steward position at a local grocery store chain, which, at that time was kind of a revolutionary type of grocery store. It was a local, conscientiously sourced, philosophically well-run place, and turned out to be the best thing I ever did in my life. But at the time, I was just taking a job at a wine aisle in a grocery store because I needed the money.
Oh, wonderful. I love that.
So that's how I was ensnared by the wine industry.
Yeah. Cool. And so you worked at this retail grocery shop, right? So how did you, move from that into winemaking more so?
So I got bit pretty early on by wine and realized that the role that other things in my life previously that helped me navigate my way through the world and help me find my people, I discovered that wine kind of served that same purpose or behaved in that same way, kind of like what music did for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
I found that wine had that same kind of blueprint. Once I was going down the road of, real wine and what we now call natural wine, it was like realizing that the kid next to you, had a Ramones, sticker on their binder. It kind of played that same role. And so I got deep into it really quickly, and then identified one of the winemakers in Oregon that really spoke to me in that regard, and went out and worked a harvest. And then, like a lot of people who come from restaurant or retail and work a harvest, you realize in the first few days that you knew nothing at all about how wine was made.
Right.
And it kind of blew my mind. And I liked that camaraderie and the brutal hours and the menial work and the bonding that took place. And so I went back the next year and did harvest again at the same place.
Sure.
Cameron Winery, by the way.
Yeah, Cameron Winery.
And a few months after that second harvest, I got an invitation to come out to the winery for lunch. And at lunch, they told me that the current assistant was moving on and would I like to be the new assistant winemaker. I had no experience or training or background to qualify me for that job. It just, it happened.
Yeah.
It was very bizarre. I tried to say no. I was like, I can't do that. And then the assistant at the time pulled me aside and said, "What are you doing, dude? Don't blow this. Just say yes."
Yeah, absolutely. I love the synchronicity there, making it happen. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. So, so the winemaker at Cameron Winery, do you still stay in touch with him? Consider him kind of a mentor, or?
We talk from time to time. When you are a small winery, like Cameron, like myself, it's a lot of work and doesn't allow for as much time for those sorts of relationships that one might imagine or like to have, is the honest answer. You know, he's still like someone that I seek for counsel if I'm having a challenge or something's going awry or I just need some advice. And he's always been there for me. But the strange reality of wine here is that all the winemakers I know on my scale are so busy that we don't see each other very often.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm sure even more so now with, you know, COVID-19 happening.
So now.
Yeah, right. So how has COVID-19 affected, you know, you and your family and, you know, the business as well? I know, loaded question, right?
I'm having a lot of like existential and metaphysical conversations with myself and my and my wife and my friends, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're in a moment, you know. So, you know, on just a human level, I would say that it's impacted me quite a bit. Everything feels like it's on the table, right? Everything needs to be revisited and reckoned and reconciled in some cases. And so I think like a lot of people, I've experienced some bit of personal transformation and have engaged in some reflection that has led me to make some, you know, big moves and some changes in my life. One of the common threads I have with my colleagues or peers that I talk to is that this has forced us to slow down in a way that made us realize that what we were doing before was insane and none of us want to go back to living that way and working like that.
Yeah.
So I might have taken the wrong exit and gone down an unmarked road here, but the effects have been largely, you know, personal and philosophical. As far as what's happening in the winery or with the business, you know, it's tough not having an assistant and operating a production at this volume alone. That's been, you know, it's been challenging. Mainly just to not have someone to bounce, you know, ideas off of and tell you whether you're doing something crazy or not. But one of the lessons that I learned at Cameron, which has kind of served me well over these years, is I price my wines based on his philosophy, which is you price your wines to sell for the worst that the economy can throw at you, not the best. And if you do that, you won't make as much money as everyone else when the tide is high or have it as easy. You'll be grinding just as hard. But when times are tough, your wines will have established value and have the ability to be within reach for people. And that has proven to be true from, I guess, from a business standpoint. Shockingly, we're running no differently than we were this time last year.
Wow.
But the wines are you know, a good 20-30% cheaper than a lot of my peers and colleagues who operate in the same kind of sphere.
Understood.
And that's why.
Right.
Well, sort of backing off philosophical sort of like, you know, changes, like what's sort of like some simple things that this situation that, you know, staying at home more, you know, reconnecting with your family, if you picked up any new hobbies, have y'all been having game nights? Have you, what's life at home like? It sounds like things have slowed down.
Now that feels really personal. That feels more personal than like all the other crap. Yeah. Okay. You know, I am not too proud to admit that we were already a gaming family and we played games. So we're
That's
just
beautiful.
Yeah.
Good for you.
there. I said it.
Wonderful.
I have a 9-year-old daughter, just turned 9 this weekend, and she's fond of games. And so we do a fair bit of that anyway. But yeah, we've had to add some things to the mix to kind of ameliorate the effects of having an only child who can't go to school or hang out with other kids. That's been probably the most personally challenging thing, is just feeling this compassion for my daughter that can't. You know, for anyone who has an only child, that's a particularly hard aspect of this experience, is that there's just this void, this social void for them through all of this. So lots of games. We're building a robot. We're learning how to cook a lot of things that we've never cooked before and make things. That's probably, I bet you a lot of people are in that same boat. We're just, learning to cook and eat things that we didn't eat and cook before.
What's some of your favorite quarantine meals so far?
We have done a deep dive on Indian food, and which works for me because I have this irrational obsession with cooking rice and getting rice perfect from all the different cuisines. You know, how you cook basmati is different than how you cook jasmine. It's different than how you cook brown rice. And I can connect this. I can tie this in. Rice, rice is one of those things that seemingly so simple. It's water and a grain, maybe a pinch of salt, and it's unforgiving. Like you have to be able to, I guess, calm down, slow down, pay attention, and do something that has very few steps, very few ingredients, and you're trying to get it perfect. Making an omelet is kind of the same thing, but that ties to wine. I think that is that's the back of the napkin explanation for what I try to do with the wines here. Is I'm not trying to reinvent anything. I'm not trying to make a wine that's unlike anyone's ever experienced before. I'm trying to take Gamay or Milan or Sauvignon Blanc and treat it like rice, like taking something very simple and just trying to get it perfect, which Miles Davis had a word for, complexity.
Yeah.
That doing something very simple, once you're deep in the weeds, proves to be really quite hard.
That's great. Thank you.
Try to get that knot there for you.
Tie it back in. Speaking of music, Rachel, I think you had some questions about music and wine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you were talking about the Ramones sticker earlier. So, you know, we know you love music. You also have a wine air guitar, you know, which we carried for a bit. So, you know, what are your musical influences and how do they play into your life, you know?
Well, music is the best.
It is.
And music's the healing force of the universe. And so music is like music is like a self-made atmosphere. You know, for me, like music is something that I need to have around me, like oxygen or air. It's far more meaningful to me than wine. Sorry. If someone said you have to make a choice, you have to give up music or you have to give up wine, I would give up wine, and I wouldn't even have to hesitate to make that decision. I can't imagine a life without music. As far as influences, that's a hard question to answer because it's a lot like my feeling about wine. I don't have a favorite wine per se, or favorite music, because part of the joy of it is that it's so big you can't get your arms around it. I like the fact that I cannot touch the bottom of that pool with wine or with music. There's too much to ever get to. But that said, deep kind of cosmic or spiritual jazz is my jam. R&B and soul, Brazilian music, and kind of the African diaspora, anything that relates to that is kind of the stuff that keeps me feeling connected to my feelings and my human experience. And music is just this palette that feels way more qualified to express my feelings than my words do. And so I think I use music a lot to clarify a feeling or to communicate a feeling to people. And man, it's been saving my butt during
Absolutely, I bet. Yeah. So I mean, what have you been listening to, especially during, when you're really getting it in the winery, making the wine? What are you listening to?
Lately, we've been doing a lot of bottling, and so trap, hip hop, disco,
Things
Yeah,
to
a
move.
lot of like Zambian
Yeah.
rock and African music. Anything that feels like dancing is music that helps you do work.
Great.
I feel that.